In this episode, we'll be learning all about authentic marketing from an impact strategist and game changer. She is a spiritual business mentor who mainly helps coaches and healers to start and grow their businesses. Welcome to the show, Timi. How are you doing?
Thank you, Toby. I'm really excited to be here, and I can't wait to get started with our deep conversation because I'm all about expanding mindsets a little bit. So I'm having a super energized day, so the listeners can expect maybe going a little bit deep today.
Yes, that's what we want. We want to have deep, soulful conversations in this episode. And I'm super excited to be learning so much from you to learn about your life journey. And I would love us to just, start from there. Like, I was reading about you while preparing for this conversation, and I found out, I was like, just like, wow, you became a CEO at age 30. Then, like we all do, also, you experienced burnout at 32, and then you quit your job and to live in the jungle in Sri Lanka, and then you found your path towards authentic business. And that's like an amazing journey, like achieving that great height at that very young age, and maybe having a little bit of low, but still finding your way out of that low point and becoming who you are today. That's amazing. So would you like to share this story with us?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm more than happy to. So it does sound amazing on paper when you read this out, but then when you are going through the actual journey, that's a different story. So first of all, I really want to point it out because I think all of us kind of make this sort of a quick judgments about others when we see them having certain successes or clarity in their lives, and we feel, oh great, you managed to figure out who you are and what you want to be doing so quickly, so easily. But what happens in the back end of things is a lot of deep inner work and a lot of inner transformation, and that's what was happening within me. So one of my goals personally when I was 28, 29 was to become a CEO and to run a company. It was just one of my materialistic goals that I wanted to fulfill. It was just to feed my ego at that time. So different story what I do now, but back then that was something that I wanted to fulfill. And when I achieved it at the age of 30, everything felt great and it was amazing. I loved everything that was unfolding, but yet I felt something was sort of missing. Like I felt that I couldn't be completely myself when I went to work. So even though I was good at my job, I had an amazing team and amazing customers, but I just felt that something is missing. I had to portray to be someone that I'm not really that person anymore. Especially I was looking more deep within. I realized that why am I doing this to myself? That I go to work and I'm not able to talk about energy. I'm not able to talk about consciousness or anything that might people think it's a bit woo woo, in a way. So that was a big part of me as well. So as much as I loved the whole business goals I set for myself, I also had my spiritual development goals and personal growth goals as well. So I didn't feel that they were sort of lining up, which eventually led me to having a full-on burnout that I completely just focused only on my work and I ignored my own development. So I decided I needed to make a radical change. I didn't really know what I wanted to do properly, but I just knew I had to change something. I had to walk away from the known environment because that's the way we can truly grow, I think, deep within. If
Yes.
you remove yourself from a situation and place yourself into new environment. I did that physically. So I placed myself all the way to the other side of the globe. I placed myself in the jungle in Sri Lanka, which was an incredible experience. And I really wish that anyone on this planet could do that and just travel whenever they wanted to. It really shifted things in me, seeing different culture, different people from different backgrounds, and really helped me sort of reprioritize my own values as well. And it made me understand that the goals that I was chasing for so long and the things that I associated with success, as in just financial success or the titles and the network, they were not fulfilling really. That's not something that was helping my soul evolve. It was great for my ego. It grew massively, obviously,
Yeah.
and that wasn't the way I wanted to go down. So long story short, I spent a few months there to really try to restructure my own beliefs and try to rediscover who I really was deep within the bones and the skin and the exterior. And that's when I realized that I have something to do with spirituality. I always feel alive when I can talk about these kind of topics, and I knew that that's absolutely not something I should be throwing away. But I equally love business, so I was yo-yoing. How do I do this? So I eventually it hit me when I returned back to Europe. I'm based currently in Europe, and it eventually hit me that I can bring these two together, and I can honor these two big loves that I have in my life, but do it in a genuine way that creates value. And that's when I decided to work only with people who are on their spiritual journeys and need business support and marketing support. So that's what I did in early 20, to give you the very short
Yeah.
version of that journey.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. That's so amazing. And you make it so relatable because, you're talking about your burnout. Like, yes, a lot of people, more than we could admit or more than we would love to admit, experience burnout. And you said it correctly well already. Like, when your values don't align with what you are doing, or your energy or your purpose is not aligned with what you are particularly placing all your time into, then the burnout comes into play. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I'm
absolutely.
I'm so happy that you had the courage to put yourself out of the picture physically, to move to Sri Lanka, and then looked at your life from afar and say, okay, what is missing? What do I have to work on to become who I am today? Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of lessons actually. And then I think, even if someone who's listening or watching this, if you are not in a position to physically remove yourself from a specific environment to try to reflect on what's happening and what's going well and what isn't going so well in your life, you can still change your environment. And then, even since then, I keep doing these same reflective periods in my life when I don't physically go away now so far away, because that's a form of escapism as well, actually, when we just run away from our own self, thinking that we're just going to suddenly reborn as a new person. That's not it. you
Yeah.
you take yourself with you when you travel so far away.
Mm.
But if you are in a position to maybe just go and sit in a different park that you normally would go sit under a different tree, or listen to different kind of music for a change, to change something within your mind. So I still have these habits now that, it's unstructured as well, actually, at the end of each year or beginning of each year, depending on my mood. Whenever I feel like doing some planning and unleashing my creativity, I would lock myself into a hotel room. I would just literally go to the next town, or even within the same time, I would book myself for one night or two, completely alone, just with a journal and just with my headphones, so I can completely disconnect from the world for a couple of days, and really reflect on, am I going into direction that is aligning up with my values, or am I going again against my values?
Mm.
Especially for people who are quite active in business or in their careers. So I have the tendency to become a bit of a workaholic, just because I purely love being active, and I love investing a lot of my energy into work activities. So for those kind of people who are quite high energy and they are doing a lot of work activities, it can be, I think, a really good way to reel yourself back in, to make sure that you're not going to burn yourself out. So that definitely something that helped me both in the jungle, and then even in my current sort of day-to-day life, to spend time reflecting on, am I going into the right direction, and
Yeah.
if not, where do I need to take a, I don't know, a left or a right, or turn around to
Yeah.
head back to my own self.
That's true. And that's why I said, oh, I really admire your courage to do that, like that, strength to do that. Because sometimes when we were moving in a very fast pace in life, like you said, working and
Mm.
trying to become successful, or we are successful and, just going around doing the different activities that we do. And all of a sudden, you just have to like slow down, and or probably even shut down totally. That's like a very difficult thing for some people to do, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be difficult, but we make it difficult. I believe. I personally, at least, I know I make it difficult for myself, and I even the words that we use would give us that sort of clues what we really think about slowing down, or not working, or what we feel about taking a break and looking after ourselves. Because for me, for a very long time, and I actually worked with a coach to figure this one out. I couldn't do this on my own. I had an incredible coach. She helped me to figure this one out. And when I was working with her, that's when I realized that the reason when I was not working, I felt actually guilty. I really felt that taking time off and doing nothing, I associate that with the feeling of being lazy. And if I'm lazy, that means I have to feel guilty.
Yeah.
So those were some heavy, deep truths that I didn't even see right in front of my eyes. And the only way I could uncover these were by slowing down and taking a break. So
Yeah. Yeah.
there is a bit of a, it's a bit of a catch-22 there.
Mm.
So if you want to understand why you cannot slow down, you still need to slow down to figure things out.
That's true. You're right. We can't figure things out on a very fast pace. You have to really slow down to
Definitely.
reflect. Yeah, that's true. And earlier you talked about ego. Like, I can imagine being a CEO at the age of 30, having a team that is working for you. Sometimes it could happen that, that ego just grows, basically. How are you able to get rid of that ego? For example, you are in Europe, CEO, doing your thing, being the best there. And then after some minutes or some days or some years, you're in the jungle somewhere. Like, how do you manage that shift? How do you get rid of that ego? How did you understand? You understand what I'm trying to express here?
Yeah.
Like, you're at the top of the game,
Extremes.
and exactly, two extremes. How were you able to get rid of the ego? Or were you able to adapt and not, beat yourself up?
It was a conscious decision. I was actually running away from success. I was running away from money, from business and the material world. So that's exactly what happened, because I realized that it was a big part of the process, like focusing too much on the financial side of things, and just the titles and the sort of external validation that comes with that sort of game.
Yeah.
I was focusing too much on hitting those to give me that sort of dopamine to make me feel good about myself.
Yeah.
And I realized that that was a massive part of the process that led me to that burnout, and led me to sort of feeling like I kind of lost a part of me, and I lost my authenticity within that process. So that was a conscious decision. I really wanted to go to a place that isn't so maybe over modernized, or so centered around finances and money and the sort of shiny things, specifically. So I wanted to meet with raw and real people who still know how to be in touch with nature, who still know how to listen to their ancestors, and bring spirituality to their day-to-day lives. And for some reason, the way I chose Sri Lanka as well was kind of weird, like weird in the spiritual terms. Like, nothing is really ever weird when you are following your path. But the
Yes.
way it happened is that a few years actually before I decided to travel there, I had this vision in my meditation. I had a bit of a flashback from a previous life, and I had the location in my mind's eye that I was in that country, in Sri Lanka. And I'll just put this to the side. I've written down in my journal. I used to keep a journal of my visions that I received through my meditations, and I forgot about it until I decided that I want to travel, and I didn't know where I wanted to go. I just said to myself, okay, I want to wake up in the morning, and whatever is going to be calling me, I'm going to buy a ticket there. And the next thing I remembered in the morning, I was like, Sri Lanka. I was like, oh, okay. I don't know much about that place. Let's just go and book a ticket there.
Yeah.
And after I purchased the ticket, I started packing, obviously, because I was leaving the country. And then I came across this journal, and I read through the sort of journal of the previous meditation. And that's when I remembered, like, hold on for a second. I have something deeper here that's happening, that I already had a vision about this a couple of years ago. I didn't really pay
Wow.
attention to it. I didn't do anything with it. So a couple of years later, I've got my flight tickets ready to go to a country that 2 years before I had a vision about having lived there in a previous life. So
Wow.
it was all, I think, part of a bigger game for me to be directed there. And the reason I could do it, you mentioned it took me courage. Yes and no. I think it was more like being faith in my voice, in that intuition, in that inner calling, and ignoring the people around me, the people who
Mm.
were like, like, you can't do this, you can't just throw away your life, you can't just leave everything behind. And I completely ignored everyone, and I said, I know what feels right for me, and I need to listen within, and I need to do something that might seem crazy on
Mm.
the outside, but deep inside I knew that this is the path I need to go down on.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's I would say it was a conscious decision for me to ditch that.
Hi, friend. Are you enjoying this episode? We would love to hear from you. Kindly send us a feedback. Are you following us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, maybe on YouTube and other podcast platforms? Are you following us on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook? We would love to connect with you on all platforms. Links and further details are available in the show notes of this episode. Thank you. Yes. And I'm so grateful that you went down that path. And that's the reason why you're here today to tell us about your spiritual journey. And now you are a business mentor for spiritual community. Like yes, you help the spiritual community to grow their business or to even start their business. So can you enlighten us on what spiritual business is all about? What is it?
Yeah, I get asked a lot. That's actually one of the biggest search terms on Google that brings traffic to my website. People ask like, "What is a spiritual business?" So you're not the only one to ask me this. So this is something that I realize is actually quite a big industry. When I first had that idea that I need to be serving people who are also like-minded and they are on their spiritual paths, and combine my marketing and business knowledge for them, I started doing some research, and I thought I came up with this idea, and then turns out no, it wasn't me. It's already out there. I thought
Yeah.
like, why not just create a whole industry and call it the spiritual industry? So I started doing some proper market research, and I realized this is a massively growing and trending industry, and it started growing in the last 10, 15 years, especially in the last 2 to 5 years. It's growing very well. So the spiritual business would be people who work within the spiritual industry, which would usually entail anyone that is following their spiritual self-awareness journeys, or you're using alternative medicine or following meditation, anything that is following the sort of spiritual path. So it is a broad. So yoga teachers usually can be sort of shoved into this category as well.
Mm.
Maybe sometimes they don't prefer it. They normally sit within the fitness industry. But anyone who has some kind of skills or talent that they feel that they can share with the world, so they could be energy healers, they could be tarot readers, they could be astrologists, anything that is not the sort of traditionally accepted path of living one's life,
Yeah.
or alternative education, alternative media. There are many of these small little hubs out there, and when I started getting into this community, I realized like, wow, this is huge. There's a massive shift that's happening in the business world, that many people who are following their sort of energetic or spiritual paths, they are started to realize that there is a perfectly fine way for them to even make a living out of that. And that was one of my biggest motivators for myself as well, that I didn't want to just get just another job for paying the bills. That's exactly what kills your soul.
Yeah.
I decided I need to find a way that I can make a living, not just make money, different story to make money and making a living,
Yeah.
but to make a living out of something that my soul truly wants me to do. And that something needs to create a positive impact around me, and it needs to create value for others. That's a big thing for me. And when you look at people who are on their self development or spiritual development journeys, these are the things that we share, that we all want to be helping humanity evolve. We all want to be helping our world become a better place, because we see how things are going into the wrong direction. And because of that, we become, I think, a lot more energetic to take action. And I'm sensing that this might be one of the reasons why more and more people start now spiritual businesses, because I think we've had enough. We have had enough of trying to get in line and just follow what you should be doing, like go study and then get a 9 to 5, get married and die. Like, no, thank you. There's more to that. So it is a growing thing, and especially in the last few years with everything that's been happening around the planet, with people being restricted from their freedom and movement and all of that, and that I think really helped people to reflect,
Mm.
to quiet down.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And I could see that when I started my business, it was just before, it was January 2020, and the year later I did another market research, and I realized that so many people started a business within that industry. It was a massive boom.
Mm.
So I'm guessing it had something to do with it, that we were first forced to slow down a little bit, so we could actually reflect on our choices, including our careers and our work.
Yeah.
So, in a nutshell, if anyone wants to start a spiritual business, I would always recommend them looking at their actual passions. Like, what are they passionate about within the whole spirituality topics? Is it to help others, to heal others, to guide them, to create jewelry, or anything along those lines? And then look at their actual work and life experiences. Like, what can I bring from there to make it a valuable skill set to someone as a potential client or a customer of mine. So
Yes.
it is going to be a big, I think it's going to be taking over really soon. It's going to be a major industry moving forward.
Yes, yes. I mean, I'm all for, spiritual growth and spiritual development. So why not?
Yeah,
Yes,
let's
yes.
do it.
Yeah, let's do it. Yes. And I can totally relate to what you said earlier. You talked about, starting business in 2020, and there's a lot of business that started at that, period of time because we were forced, in quotes,
Yeah.
to slow down. And then we had enough time to reflect because we were able to, we were forced to quite all the noises around us, the moving around, the bubbling and the hustling around. And that also, I mean, relates to me because I started this podcast also in 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was forced to work from home all day and I
Yeah.
had more time to think and more time not to run away from my thoughts and my thinking process and my meditation. So I was quite forced by my inner self
Yeah.
to start the podcast. Like, now, Toby, you have to start right now. You've been pushing it for long. Start it right now.
Like, just get going with it. I
Yes.
think there's many people felt the same, and then even for me as well. Like I think maybe if that whole craziness didn't happen, I maybe would have had a lot slower start to my own business as well at the beginning. Because just because I started in January, it didn't mean I went full speed at the beginning. But as I was sitting at home, I was like, okay, now I have time to really do this properly. So let's get this off the ground properly. So I think a lot of people went through something similar, and I always try to look at things from a constructive perspective. And I think as humanity, as the collective, for us, it was a massive wake-up call to start to shift our attention to what really matters for us individually in our own lives. And I'm so great that you followed that little voice in your head as well, so you got started with your podcast, because had you not done it, you would have missed out on inspiring all these amazing people who are actually now listening to the episode. So
Yeah.
that's the effect on the action. So
That's true. That's very true. And if there's someone out there, Tim, that's asking, okay, yeah, it's so awesome that you've inspired me to start my business right now. But how do I grow this spiritual business that I'm about to start? Or how do I grow this spiritual business that I've started maybe after listening to this episode, for example? How would you advise such a person?
yeah, so depending on where someone is on their journey in their business, and then being in the spiritual industry and not running your own spiritual business is actually a really good way to for the business to show up as your own mirror, funny enough. So your business actually becomes your own mirror back to you, because as you are evolving as an entrepreneur and as a human being as well, that should be reflecting in your own business. So if you feel that internal transformation that is happening in you, because you are now feeling like that you're on the right path, you are serving the right audience, you are helping people, you are contributing to the greater good, and helping us all unite and evolve, it will show up in your business, and you will have this little extra urge. But it's a good urge, it's not the ego driven urge, it's that sort of soul level urge that tells you that if you can do this, you can do more. You can do I don't know, like you can maybe do something else that will reach another 10 people, 100 people, 10 million people, whatever that little voice is telling you. So it is going to be quite a natural process for you that you want to be then growing your business. And what I always recommend doing is that forget what everyone is telling you about like marketing and sales strategies, because they simply do not work within the spiritual industry, because it is a very different setup. It's a very different sector, that the sort of sleazy sales and aggressive marketing techniques do not work for these people within this segment, for two reasons. A, everyone is highly intuitive, so they can smell the BS from seconds, and you're not you, you're not going to be in a position to try to trick someone into buying something from you, and it's just completely unethical. So people who are having some certain level of self-awareness, they already know that they shouldn't be unethical anyway, so I don't think they would feel right about tricking people into buying their service or product. So you need to find ways that how can you get your message across in a way that is truly authentic for you, and it really meets you on an energetic level, because there isn't just a one size fits all strategy that's going to help you grow your business. But that's the negative side of the industry booming so quickly. Because of that, there are unfortunately a lot of so-called experts out there who will try to exploit the community. And then I just do want to put a little side of warning out there to be a bit selective of who you work with if you are in that situation, because some people will try to position themselves using the traditional techniques and say, yes, I can help you grow your business. This is the one size fits all strategy. Please run if you come across someone like that, because
Yeah.
the biggest key element, the biggest drive, and the biggest sort of energetic power in that business is you, and that deepest calling that you had to start it. So that's what you need to be paying attention to. And whatever methods or strategies that you will be choosing, it needs to line up with who you are on a soul level. Because I'll give you an example. Like, I'm a quite extroverted, high energy person, so I'm doing really great with doing meetings and conversations and sales calls, and I can easily do outreach and just start having a conversation with people I don't know. Versus maybe you have someone who's a bit more introverted, they prefer to be like left alone and just do their own thing from behind the scenes,
Yeah.
and they just want to share their knowledge. How, if I told that person to copy what I do, they're going to end up hating their business, because I would then tell them to do the same things that I do in my own business, which for them would be a lot of noise and just being out there, and it would drain their energy. It would not work for them at all. So that's what I'm saying. When you are looking into growing your business, find someone that understands that you come first as a person, and then your business comes second, because your business actually becomes the mirror of your own journey, and then where you are on your own journey. So if you are in alignment with your higher self, and if you are feeling in balance and I don't know, like in harmony, let's say it. Like,
Yeah.
not always we're gonna feel that way, but let's say that you have a day when you feel in harmony. That's going to reflect on your business. That's when you're going to get the ideas, and then find the people that can complement that process. So if you don't know much about, I don't know, IT or setting things up, find someone to help you with the technicalities. If you don't know much about creating content, or if you don't enjoy writing, find someone to help you with that aspect. Or if you're really not good at coming up with ideas, find someone that you can brainstorm with, find someone that can bring you the ideas to the table. So it comes down to your own business consciousness. This is what I call it. So, as you know, just as you have your own consciousness, your business has the same thing. And as you evolve as a person, as your own mind's consciousness evolves, so will your business's consciousness, actually, because they go very much hand in hand. They are very similar.
Yeah.
I don't know, does that make sense, or did I
Yes.
just
Of course, of course. I'm just sitting back here listening and yeah, taking it all in. Actually, it makes a lot of
oh,
sense.
good.
Yes, it makes sense. Yes, and I'd like to rewind back to the beginning of your answer. You talked about
Yeah.
us being authentic in our marketing, and
Hmm.
you also you also mentioned of the point or the fact that the business is booming right now. And what I'm reflecting on, or what I thought about immediately, was online business. Like, even let's take Instagram, for instance, or Facebook or Pinterest, or wherever we want to even look at, even just on Google, for example, thousands, millions of businesses. And you're talking about authentic marketing, and there are a lot of bad businesses out there. How can we still stand out, gain new customers, and be authentic at the same time in a very competitive, saturated world?
Very true, very true. And that's exactly one of my little tricks that I like to share with people, because we shifted so much onto online words and online selling and online marketing that we completely forgot about using traditional methods. And because of that, actually, things have become a lot less competitive. And then I'm talking about simple actions and simple methods that you could be doing. So if someone has their own business, or maybe you work for someone who has a business, it doesn't matter what your setup is at this stage. But one of the easiest way for you to really stand out is by delivering exceptional service. Customers receiving outstanding service is actually what going to bring you a lot more customers and business growth in the long term. Because what happens, they will come back to you again, so that's already a repeat customer. They will start talking great about you, and the word is getting out there, so they're going to bring you referrals as well. Versus if you're just going to sell them something quick with a Google ad or a Facebook ad, and then you never reply to them, and yes, you're making great revenue, amazing, but if you're not really building those genuine relationships with your actual customers or potential customers, you're missing out on pretty much on a gold mine. Because everything in the business world is shifting more to community based, and you will see that happening maybe within the next year or so. You can see that people are craving connection, people are craving realness. People are craving real stories, and because we have been so, like, I don't know, we got so used to these success stories we keep seeing, like, coming out, like, we're not shocked anymore, like, or not feeling that wow feeling anymore. Like, someone says,
Yes.
like, hey, I built my business and I'm a, I don't know, seven figure whatever, I did it in 6 days. It's like, yeah, okay, another one, great. But if you actually strip down all that, glitz and glamour, and you show people the realness, like, yes, maybe I did this,
Mm,
but this is what I had to go through. It wasn't an easy journey. These were my struggles. Do you know what? I actually failed for the first few attempts.
mm.
If we start talking about these things and we become a lot more real with people, not
Yes.
only they will actually relate better, it's a lot easier to relate to someone who overcame their
Mm,
maybe smaller day-to-day struggles than looking at someone who's maybe into the 7 8 figures, and you are maybe wanting to be there and you are nowhere near there. How can you relate to someone that when you have a massive gap
mm,
between you two?
mm.
Versus if that person starts talking about their journey, when they can relate to you, maybe like what it felt like, I don't know, coming up with the idea, what it felt like changing your group of friends because you just sort of outgrew them in a way that you didn't click with them anymore because your mindset changed, or you're just in a different sort of part of your spiritual journey, and you just
Yeah.
don't resonate with each other anymore.
Mm,
So these are the things that really make you stand out. And going back to a little bit about the authentic marketing part, so this is one of them, like really showing the reality of why you're doing what you're doing,
mm,
first of all,
mm.
and not just showcasing the good things and the successes,
Yeah.
but honestly telling people that maybe you had some frustrations. And I'm not saying that it's going to become negative and it's going to be like whining and, like, you don't need a stop story. That's not it.
Mm,
Just show the reality, and tell people maybe your insecurities. Many business owners, at least the ones that I have met throughout my career and in my network, every single one of them usually doubt themselves.
mm.
They go through a phase when you're like, can I really make money out of this? Like, can I really like make this happen? Like, is
Yeah.
this really good enough?
Mm,
That's part of that process. So when you start sharing these experiences with people who want to get to where you are, you already inspire them to say, like, oh, okay, he's another human being. He's great. He's went through this. If he did it, I can do it. That
yes.
already gets you going and gets you energized, and gets you motivated to actually do things, and start going with things, because taking action is going to be the biggest key
Mm,
for anyone.
mm.
If you're not taking action in your marketing, in your business, doesn't matter, nothing is going to happen. And
Yeah.
one of my favorite quotes ever is so
Mm,
simple, but it's so powerful. It says, nothing happens
mm.
if nothing happens.
Oh, okay. That's very simple and very actually factual. Nothing happens if nothing
Yeah,
happens. Yeah.
it is factual, but also like, don't expect anything to change if you're not going to make any sort of changes, or you're not going to take any sort of action.
Mm,
So if you are maybe a business owner, or if you want to start your own business and you don't know how to tweak your marketing to make it authentic, I would really recommend you to do a bit of journaling exercise and go back to the very beginning and the very basics, and try to write down a few sentences of why you started what you started, what is it that you're trying to achieve with it,
mm,
what is the intention behind the business or the activity that you are doing.
mm,
Is it because you want to maybe build communities, or strengthen communities? Is
mm,
it because you want to, I don't know, help ending injustice? Or is it because you want to help people who have karmic blocks or physical pain, whatever that is? So
mm.
go back to the basics, figure out what's driving you and what's that inner calling that initially told you to get started with it,
Yeah.
and communicate that in your materials, on your website, on your sales
Mm,
copy, on your social media, everywhere. So make sure that your brand comes across real,
mm,
and it has feelings and emotions
mm.
behind it, because people make decisions based on emotions. If you're not going to share your own emotions with them, how can you expect them to have an emotional reaction to your content or your
Mm,
promotions or your offers? So
mm.
it goes both ways. I'm
Yes.
afraid, like, what you put
Yes.
out there will come back to you. So
Yeah.
don't be don't be afraid to become a little bit vulnerable sometimes, and
Mhm.
just drop that perfect persona that we sometimes put on online. And
Mm.
I'm glad to see that it's slowly dropping and people
Yes.
are slowly taking them off.
Yes, I'm also glad that it's slowly dropping because I'm also glad that, people show both sides, the good part and the bad side. Sorry, yes, the bad side also, or the not so good
Yeah.
side, I would say. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I think while growing up, I always had this mindset or this belief that, okay, you start a business and then you become successful. Everything happening between the changes, the difficulties, I don't know about it. I just know you started something and at a point, oh, you are making 7 figures, you're making 8 figures. I'm like, wow, okay. When I start a business too, that's how my story is going to be like. Then when you start something, then you start failing, you start experiencing changes and difficulties. You're like, okay, what am I doing wrong? Why am I so different? What's happening? Why am I the odd one out here? I'm supposed to start and just become successful, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, it can still happen. Like they are still out there, the few odd examples, but the process is very similar to your own spiritual and personal development. It's basically there are so many similarities there, like how you start learning about these new concepts and you start seeing the world from a new perspective when you are learning more about yourself and the world. Same thing happens in your business. First you understand, okay, hey, I need to sell something, I need to have a product or the service. So that's the initial part of your awakening process, sort of, or your spiritual journey process in your business.
Yeah.
And then you learn all the little things like, oh, I need to have, I don't know, an accountant, or I need to have this, and I need to have that. And you're adding all these different layers the same way as you are evolving your own level of consciousness on your journey. So yeah, if you are speaking to people, those of you who are listening right now, and they tell you like it was an easy ride, everything is great, I launched my, like, they're lying to you. So please.
Yeah. That's true. That's unfortunately true. Yeah, yeah. And earlier you also talked about being an extrovert, being able to speak with people, and some people are so introverted, and they like to maybe do their own work on their own at maybe at background, for example, in the background, for example, and when it comes to business, this could also affect our business role. So how can we know what type of spiritual business role aligns with our energy?
Yes, that's a really valid question, because some people would actually fail to even understand what lines up with them energetically, and again it comes back to a bit of reflection and self analysis to
Mm,
understand what are the sort of situations in your day to day life that you really enjoy, that you feel that it gets you energized, and what are those moments when you feel that that sort of sensation in your chest, like your heart is beating a little bit faster when you got really excited, or you have that sort of a joy feeling that you just want to jump a little bit or
mm,
like clap your hands. Those sort of little moments that we experience throughout our lives, it could be anything. It could be maybe going to a museum or watching a movie or going dancing or reading a book. Whatever those little moments that you have, or specific topics maybe that you speak about with your friends, when you have these little feelings, those are your clues. Those are the ones that will tell you what sort of business type or business role would be really lining up with you on an energetic level. Because an example would be, let's say, um, maybe you get that sort of feeling when you are able to give advice or help fix someone's problem. When they come to you, maybe you have a conversation with your friend and they come to you with their complex problem, and you really enjoy giving them advice or helping them out or helping them fix or solve that problem.
mm,
If that's the case, very likely a kind of role that you do something similar would be really great for you. You could be something like a project manager, you could be something like a mentor, or it could be something like a consultant. Those kind of little giveaways will tell you exactly when you feel most recharged and
mm.
when you feel like that you are the most alive. And then do the same with the typical activities that make you drain and you just get bored and you want to run away from it. In my case,
Yeah.
I'm really bad at administration and doing anything tedious and organizing, and like that's not my thing. So I just get lost with it. I'm the one who doesn't reply to emails for 5 days and then I forget to do it. So this is my sort of side that I know it drains me.
Mm,
So find the people around you who can help you with these kind of activities,
yeah.
but don't start a business if you know that it's going to drain you. if it drains you to even give advice to others or have conversations with others, don't become a coach, don't become a mentor, don't become a public speaker.
Mm,
Okay,
mm,
if you know that these are the activities that energizes you, then try to narrow it down and try to see the options. And if some of you who are completely confused, I actually have a free quiz on my website about that, so it can help you to give you
yes.
a bit of a guidance about knowing what sort of characteristic would be suitable for you based
Mm,
on your personality.
yeah.
But at the end of the day, it isn't that complex to figure out. Just pay attention to what drains you and what energizes you,
Yeah.
and avoid doing any work activities about the things that drain you, and do more of what energizes you. That's probably the easiest way to explain that.
Yes, and that takes a lot of consciousness. Basically, like we have to be very conscious of of the activity that we do, and find out how we feel with those activities. Find our strengths, our weaknesses, and try to find a way to change our weaknesses to strength, or look for people that could support us in those areas.
Yeah,
Yes.
pretty much. It all comes down to consciousness. So,
Mm,
whatever you want to call it, we call it self awareness, spiritual development, personal development, whatever that is, it
mm,
is at the end of the day, us humans understanding how our brain works, how as us as humans actually we are, how we function and how we think and how we can use that way of thinking. And if you can finally make it a little bit more better functioning, let's
yeah.
put it that way. So if you
Yeah.
can learn how to help your own mind to function a little bit better, either with your health or with your mindset, they go pretty much hand in hand.
Mm,
That's when you can do the same thing in your own business. So I
mm,
think long gone are the days when we are told that you have to be, I don't know, stuck in the same job until you get retired because it's the safe choice to do so. I
mm.
I really see a massive shift, especially within the sort of younger generation, the Gen Zers, and I've got a ton of hope for them because super cool energy that they're bringing to our place now.
Yeah.
And I'm sensing that many of the traditional roles and many of the traditional jobs out there will come to an end because of that as well. Not many people
Mm,
want to fill them anymore because the world has really opened up, especially us being now more able to function online.
mm.
So it gives us a bigger market to play with as well. So even a couple of questions ago, you asked me about like how they can even get all these new customers. Yes,
Yes.
the market is maybe oversaturated online, but at the same time, you opened up to a global market because of that. Previously, maybe you had to limit yourself to your city, to your country, to your continent, or to your region. But now, literally, nothing is stopping you. As long as you're okay
Yes.
with the time difference, nothing is stopping you.
That's
that's
true.
that's all that is.
Yes, yes. The world is your oyster, basically. You can
Yeah,
explore.
your sleeping pattern is your only enemy. So
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. And when talking about consciousness, I was just thinking about, okay, that's one thing I also want to work on, like business consciousness and personal consciousness, self consciousness, and I'm looking for ways to increase it or elevate it. Like I don't know if you have some tips or strategies I could use to elevate my consciousness.
yeah, for business consciousness, definitely I would say taking stock of what you already have and where you are. That's definitely the biggest starting point. So
Mm,
again, very similar kind of process like what you do with your own personal development. So before you set your own personal goals, you kind of know what's happening in your life currently and what resources I have around me already. You do the same with your business consciousness as well. Look at what's happening right now. What are the things that you feel that are going well? What are the resources that you have already? And by resources, I don't just mean financial resources. It could be people that you are dealing with as human resources. It could be the time that you have, the flexibility, like having access to online communities, these kind of resources. Take
mm,
a stock of what you already have and try to identify things that maybe you feel that you could be doing a little bit better in those areas. So maybe if you are not aware of how quickly you are turning your potential customers into paying clients and you have zero understanding of what's happening within that part of the journey,
mm,
that's definitely one of the areas that you need to become a little bit more conscious, to pay attention to what's actually happening at each step. And one of the easiest exercises as well is putting yourself into your customer or potential customer shoes, or in your case your listeners shoes as well,
Mm,
or your guest shoes as well, to see things from those perspectives. Because when business owners, or even if you're not even having a business but you're in a job,
mm,
you keep looking at things from within, and you keep looking at the same thing over and over and over again. It's kind of like, I don't know, someone will lock you in your kitchen. All you see is your fridge and your hob and all of that and your
yes.
cupboard. And then one day someone just drags you out to a balcony with a sea view, and you're like, whoa, what's happening? Like the whole world is changing. Same thing happens with you. So
Mm,
try to look at things from, not from within for your business, but look at it from the other perspectives, such as your clients, your customers, your listeners, your subscribers, your followers, whatever is that's happening.
mm,
What is the experience that they are going through? Are they really having the experience that I initially wanted them to have? So am I inspiring them? Am I giving them high quality service that I wanted to give them? Am I helping them unite or become better, or heal,
mm,
or whatever is that you wanted to do? And if not, then that's when you can start pinpointing the activities, like what are the areas that I need to become a bit more conscious about? What are the things that I'm not paying attention to? That's literally comes down to that, becoming more conscious in business. It just means you need to identify the areas that you are not focusing on, and the sort of improvement areas that you haven't even paid attention to.
mm,
Same thing in your day-to-day life. If you are ignoring your health and all you do is just meditate, but you don't do any physical activity, eventually you're going to have some sort of injuries, or something's going to go wrong.
yeah.
But purely because you haven't paid attention to that part of your life. Same thing in your business. Maybe all you focus on is just bringing in the leads and bringing in the customers,
Mm,
but you do no follow-ups after they purchase something from you, or you don't try to keep the community alive. Of course they're not going to come back for you, or not going to recommend people to
mm,
you. So
mm,
take stock of what you have. That's always the biggest or easiest, more like, starting point for understanding what needs to evolve
mm,
consciously within
yeah.
your business.
Yeah.
And another big mistake that I also see is people are paying attention to the wrong things,
Mm,
especially solo entrepreneurs. This is a massive, massive thing that is happening. So if it's one person running a business, or it's a small team, they usually end up taking care of the wrong things, and they're ending up spending a lot of time on activities that do not bring results. So maybe they are doing, I don't know, 20 hours a week creating content for social media, but in reality they have received zero sales or
mm,
customers from
yeah.
social media. So if they become more conscious about where they are wasting your time and what needs to be reallocated, that massively helps, not just with the entire flow of the business, but even for you as a person, because you're going to free up a lot of your time. You're going to be less stressed. You're going to have more time to quiet down. Go back to the beginning of our conversation.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's when they can really understand, how can I do this in a way that is not going to lead me to a burnout? Because when you finally find that inner calling and you make it into a business, the last thing you want to do is to burn yourself to the ground and work so much over it that it becomes a chore,
Mm,
instead of a real passion that you want to be doing something with all of your soul and all of your heart. So just be careful out there when you are running your own spiritual business, and
yeah.
make sure that you regularly schedule in some time off as well to reflect, not just about your own self, but
Mm,
reflect on your business results, and understand what's really going well and what isn't going well.
mm,
And the last bit of advice on that topic is
yes.
keeping a very, very open mind, because
Mm,
feedback is going to be crucial for someone. So
yes.
it hurts like hell, yes. When someone is about to tear your baby apart that you built, and then they're
Mm,
like, hey, your website is slow, like this doesn't load, or that doesn't work, or
mm,
I haven't received a download link, and you're like, oh no, what have I done? But pay attention, because that sort of feedback and complaints, even complaints, are going to be really crucial steps for you
mm,
to become a lot more conscious, even in your own business. So try to keep an open mind. Whoever says something to you, even if they're just having a bad day and taking it out on you,
yeah.
if they pick you for a reason. And if they pick your business, they pick that for a reason. So
Yeah.
pay attention to what it's trying to tell you. So separate that sort of, I don't know, like role that you have built, and then that is your baby that they're sort of taking apart, and just take a step back and look at things from the outside and see how that really looks.
Yes, take things, take a look from the outside. Take a step back and look at it from a wider perspective. Actually, yeah. And I love what you said about writing things down, like sitting down, reflecting, writing it down, journaling, for example, and that helps us to be much more conscious of where we were, where we are, and also helps us to even plan better where we are going to. Yeah, that's consciousness.
Taking stock is very important. So if you don't know your starting point, how will you ever know like how far you have come? Same thing like when you get into a car, let's say you have, I don't know, 60 liters of petrol in your car, which is gonna be enough for I don't know how many kilometers it's gonna drive, but let's say, I don't know, 100 or 200. I'm probably said something really silly here, but you get the idea. So let's
Yeah.
say if that X amount of liter will take you to 200 kilometers, but then you don't know your starting point and you don't know how many kilometers you traveled because you didn't capture the starting point, you're going to be really surprised when the car suddenly stops.
Mm.
Same thing with your own consciousness, with your own journey, and with your own business. If you don't know where you are starting from, but you have somewhere that you really want to get to, but you don't know how long it will take you to get there, or what is that distance that you need to travel, it's not going to lead you anywhere great. Something is going to give out and something's going to break down along that journey.
Yes, hopefully not you.
Hopefully not you.
Well,
Hopefully not you.
yes. Well, Timi, I've learned so much from you in this conversation, like about business consciousness. I've learned about having a spiritual business, what it is all about. I learned that from you today. Thanks so much. And
glad I helped you.
yes, and now what we need to do, to be authentic in our marketing, even in a very saturated world, and how to stand out, also how to grow our business, regardless of where we are, basically, or what we are doing. That's awesome.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love talking about this topic. It probably comes across. So this is one of those giveaways when you feel like I speak like this, like these are the topics that makes me come alive. So
Yeah.
I would always recommend someone to pay attention to how you are reacting emotionally when you're talking about specific topics, because those are your biggest giveaways to understand why you're here for and what you're meant to be doing.
Yes, that's very true. That's very, very true. So what was like the best way to contact you, to work with you, to get across to you, in case there are people that are out there that still have more questions to ask, or maybe they want to work with you? I know you have this beautiful website. I just want you to tell us the best way to do this, to reach out to you.
Not taking it away. Thank you. That's nice feedback. I like receiving those. Thank you. The best way to reach out to me would be through my website, which is connect1marketing.com. So that's connect1marketing.com. The reason I gave that name to the brand is because I really wanted to explain that all of us are connected and we are all one, and we have this sort of unity consciousness around us. So that was the reason behind the name of my website. And I've got a ton of free resources there for people who are maybe looking to start, or if they are looking to grow their businesses. So I'm all about giving back to the community, and I have a ton of these educational materials there. So feel free to browse through, and you can also book in a chat with me through the website as well.
That's good. Awesome. I'm going to place the link to your website in the show note of this episode. So I encourage everyone who is listening to click on the link to get across to Timi. She's a wonderful soul, and she can help you to grow your spiritual business, or even any kind of business. There's the same principles you could apply to whatever business you are there. She was a CEO at the age of 30. She has a lot of mindset skills, personal development skills that she could teach you to also become a CEO in the shortest period of time. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this awesome conversation that I had with you. It was beautiful.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super happy that I could be a guest of yours, and I can't wait to listen to the rest of your episodes that are upcoming, because they're incredibly inspiring. And thank you for doing this for the community. I think it's amazing what you're doing for us.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much. That was good.
Wow, you made it to the very end of this episode. Thank you so much for listening. I'm grateful for your time, your love, and your contributions. Subscribe, like, review, and share this podcast. God bless you. Bye. Bye.